This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
We'll now begin with Madame Ferrari for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all of our witnesses here at HUMA to discuss Bill C-35. Lots to learn, lots to take in and consider as we strengthen this bill and try to close the gaps. If I could start with Ms. Bisnath, I found your testimony quite interesting, and I know there's been a lot of parents crying publicly, both metaphorically but also literally, because they cannot access childcare. It's they've likened it to winning the lottery if you do get a space in the $10 a day childcare. And you talked a lot about the way that the bill is currently written as non-inclusive. There's kind of winners and losers. Perhaps an unintended consequence of the bill, but it's what's happening. If you don't have a spot, you just don't get access to childcare. We have multiple families sharing that they actually cannot go back to work. Women actually can't go back to work. It's actually hurting women more than it's helping women. You spoke about women entrepreneurs, winners and losers, non-inclusive, and including everybody and the choice. One of the major pushbacks I hear is that there is concern that children are not for profit, that by opening up this bill to include everyone, that people will profit from children. Can you expand on that concern from some people in the sector?
Hi, thank you. So I guess what I can say to that is, from our perspective, home childcare providers who are independent or unlicensed and not part of, a not-for-profit or not part of a licensed system, are not making a profit. They're earning a salary. So it's two different things. They're not bringing in so much money that it's a profit. They're self-employed, they're entrepreneurs, they're making a livable wage, a salary. Doing work that is meaningful to them, meaningful to their community, providing services to the children in their areas and their neighborhoods. And yes, earning an income so that they can be self-sufficient, economically independent, support their own children, their own families. So in that sense, if we could find a way to include these home childcare entrepreneurs, perhaps with direct licensing or some other mechanism, it would open access to so many families to be able to have a spot under the CWELC plan.
I agree with you in what I've heard. Thank you for that. I'm curious what you know in terms of the wait lists, if there are any that you know of, people who are looking for childcare that can't access it. When we look at the capacity, that seems to be a major consequence of this bill. It's increased demand when there was already wait lists to start with.
So for the most part, that's out of our realm of experience. We don't really keep track of wait lists for licensed childcare or for any childcare, but from what I can say is, as I talk to parents regularly who are looking for childcare, who are desperate for childcare, who, are looking for at any avenue to find care that they need for their child. And I see, through social media and just in talking with the public and talking with people in our network, that they're searching months and months in advance, sometimes still cannot get a spot. And we just know that access, here in Ottawa and in other places across Ontario is very limited.
Yeah, thank you for that. And if I may, just to come back to your quote from, I believe it was a neuroscientist, the doctor,
yes,
about the quality of care. I think that's one of the big concerns too from people if we open up or try to put forth an amendment to include more, because right now it is an exclusive bill. And whether it's intended to be or not, it's just cutting out a lot of people. But how do you ensure to people that the child's welfare, their safety, both physically and psychologically, will be a priority if you open it up to all childcare providers and let parents choose what's best for their children?
So we feel that the home childcare providers are accountable to the parents and to their communities. So parents know what kind of experience their child is having. And we know that there's a good quality and poor quality in all sectors, just as there is in all professions, and that a license, doesn't necessarily equal quality childcare. Quality is so much more than just a piece of paper or a checklist. It's, the relationship that's formed between the parent and the provider, this partnership that's based on mutual respect and that centers around the care of the child. So
thank you for that.
That's how we...
I have 30 seconds left, so thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to point out, and I believe it was Ms. Deneau talking about, stability for the child and having those multiple caregivers. And you can kind of see the cross-section here of what Ms. Bisnath is saying of these providers, and that you can see that there is the ability to have stability, too, if you are investing in and opening up that access. So we've heard from a couple witnesses, affordability is one piece of the puzzle. It's not everything. It's really important. I know it was a really big decision, and it was a huge cost for me. I mean, $10 daycare sounds wonderful. It is a wonderful idea. But I think the execution and the sustainability of it is where we want to really strengthen this piece of legislation. One of the pushbacks is that, there seems to be a real divide between not-for-profit, public, and private. There seems to be a lot of division on this particular subject. Can you speak to the women that will be hurt because of the way the current bill is written, unintended consequence, as I've said before multiple times, the women entrepreneurs that you've seen or experienced that you can share with the committee?
Sure, certainly. So our members, OX members, are women, mostly women, who took a risk, opened up a child care center, took out loans, took out mortgages on their buildings, on their houses. It's very expensive. We're talking hundreds of thousands going into the millions to open a center. Mm-hmm. So these women, some of them recent immigrants who took their life savings and said, I'm going to open a center, like this is something I know how to do. And, or people coming from an education background like myself, who was a teacher for 27 years before I opened my center. Generally speaking, the women that in our organization opened centers for a reason. They needed a center. They couldn't find childcare for their child. And I know for myself, I tried to open a nonprofit and I couldn't because I couldn't borrow $1 million. If I told the bank I wasn't making any money, they weren't going to lend me that money. So realistically, childcare has been needed, and it has been provided by these women entrepreneurs who took the risk and stepped up and provided that care and have been providing that care and are carrying the loans, carrying the mortgages and the unpaid labor and the sweat equity, and are now looking at possibly some of them, because funding is not recognizing those areas, they may lose their centers. We're all constantly being...
Thank you. I hate to cut you off. We only have so much time.
Yeah, that's okay.
But what could we add as an amendment into this bill that would include everyone, that wouldn't exclude, and especially one of the things that I've heard personally is women who've been able to flee domestic violence by opening up childcare, and that now this is going to impact them. What could we add as an amendment to help include more, to help fill that capacity and to stop that wait list?
Certainly for women who own centers right now is to make sure that the funding which will be provided to them through CWELC will include their facility cost, their loans, their unpaid equity, basically, which is what we call profit. So that chunk of money which would come from government putting into the building of a center has really come now from private, and it has to be recompensed, or they will just not continue. They can't operate as a nonprofit.
So just for clarification, because I know you have an economy background, in a not-for-profit or public, the money that is used, because you can't say for profit, but the money that comes into a not-for-profit or public is put back into the facility to maintain it, to operate it, and to fulfill operating costs. In a private, is it not that it's the own operators, they're putting their own money back into it? So they're both, nobody's I think there's a misconception that somebody's walking around with bags of money on the backs of children.
No, that's right. I mean, because in a not-for-profit organization, you have whole layers of administration which are doing exactly what the owner was doing, project managing the build, overseeing many aspects. They have skin in the game, so they're there more often. There's a higher level of oversight in that particular situation, and they're using public funds for buildings, existing buildings, or different pots of money. So if for instance was mentioned that their staff costs of a nonprofit are around 85%. So my facility cost is 15%, just monthly. So if I had 85% for my staff and 15% for my building, I wouldn't be able to feed the children. So that's why fees are higher in a for-profit center, because they have to cover all the things that government provides to nonprofits for free. The facility is there. The years of creating it, everything is already there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
So that's the difference.